Salutations, suffering sojourners. Automatic here for Automatic Games. Thanks for joining me for Season 3, Episode 16 of our XCOM 2 series. This third season, entitled Godspeed, differs from its predecessors in that I wanted to use it to explore the effects that our experiences in the field have had on our combat personnel. And examples of that would range from Bridget Michaels of Delta Squad. She certainly cut herself off from her fellow soldiers. She drank alone. She only shared time with those that seemed to understand her experiences. To the court-martial of Javier Valdez, which is obviously rooted in real-world military protocol. Miles Upshur, who just couldn't handle it and, well, not to sound trite, offed himself. To the final example being Gary Hillsdale. And he really lived and breathed in honor of his fallen comrades, and finally it just became too overwhelming, and now he's virtually shell-shocked. He will not return to the field. And I'm sure there are other examples that I've overlooked, but yeah, that's one of the marked differences of this season when compared to the first and second seasons. And, you know, I guess I'm kind of using this episode as a recap episode, but we're also moving on to the next mission. And it is not the infiltration of the Codex facility. Rather, we have to choose one, and let's see. I think we're going to go for this one here in New Brazil. In essence, because it will stifle the progress of the Avatar project, which is a priority for us. So yeah, we expect 11 enemies on the ground, and we're going to set course there now. Alpha Squad will be tasked with undertaking this mission, and they are commanded by their old commander. That's right, Alpha Squad is once again commanded by Javier Valdez, taking along Serpent Armor and a Mimic Beacon, so we're certainly glad to have him back in command. Alpha Squad is joined for the first time by Troy Black, codenamed Black Widow, wearing the war armor with a built-in rocket launcher, blue screen rounds, and an EMP bomb. As is typical for Alpha's roster, we are joined by Manny Fawcett, codenamed Manny Faces, taking along Venom rounds, and he's wearing the race suit. Then of course there's Bailey Benton, codenamed Proxy, taking an EMP bomb and the Skulljack. Sandra Barron, codenamed Snugs, wearing a war suit with the Plasma Blaster, blue screen rounds, and the Frost Bombs. And finally, Carl Ham, codenamed Lead, wearing the race suit and taking along med kits. There you have it, Alpha Squad as it stands for this mission. Alpha, you may board when ready.
Sky Ranger deployed.
We're in the pipe, 5x5.
Copy, Firebrand, begin your approach.
A resistance team operating out of this area got the jump on Advent forces passing through, and apparently they stumbled on a data vault with files critical to the alien operation. Unfortunately, hostile reinforcements overran the site, and all communications from the local operatives have gone silent. We're moving in to secure the area, neutralize all enemy contacts, and find the assets.
So here we go, secure the files, that's the name of the game. Alpha Squad is boots on the ground. As is often the case with our squad leaders, Old School is going to lead the way by utilizing his grapple to get up on this roof, inching ever so much closer to the intel that is the objective.
We've got a hostile squad here.
And we've got numerous enemies on the grid, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enemies.
That codex provides the ideal opportunity to infiltrate the Advent network. We will need to move in with the Skulljack to initiate the process.
Sure enough, one of those X-rays is a codex. We do want to Skulljack that thing. To help us out in that endeavor, Snugs is going to advance and utilize the Frost Bomb. So, Frost in the hole. We're going to freeze as many as we can in one go. And it will be up to Proxy to skulljack that thing. But you know, looking back over the season and talking about the psychology, you know, I guess I should say that the idea, the principle of casualties, psychological casualties, going hand in hand with warfare, it has likely always existed, but it has, it's multiplied itself. And that shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. It's multiplied itself, you know, in the last century, especially, and probably the 19th century as well, in so much as our capacity to sustain combat via technology, it has inevitably surpassed our psychological capability to endure combat, you know, for a great length of time. Certainly in medieval days, in ancient days, that wasn't so much the issue. Battles were settled in hours, in a day, maybe two. And then you look at Verdun, or you look at some of the battles of the American Civil War, and you see these things going on for days on end, for weeks, or, you know, I just mentioned Verdun, for months. You know, that certainly plays a big part in the psychology of the combatant, or his inability to cope with what he's experiencing. Now, for these missions, you know, here in XCOM, we don't necessarily see that, per se. These missions are going back to those ancient missions or medieval missions. They're brief. And it isn't until the last shot is fired that the soldiers have a chance to attempt to grasp with what they've experienced. I'm keenly aware that, you know, it isn't self-preservation per se that gets these soldiers to fight. And it isn't always an officer barking at them to fire a la Corky. Although that helps, of course. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking of Miles Upshur. I'm thinking of Outlast, not the game, but the character in this series. He was very self-conscious about what he had done. Moreover, what he was failing to do.
Adjusting sights.
And yet, if you watch the series, you know that he did fine. But it's all in the eyes of the beholder, and he was especially hard on himself, and he's probably not the only one. That ability to justify what you're doing, and to, at the end of the day, say, I did fine. It varies from soldier to soldier, and he was one of the weak links. I'm glad that Stun Lancer missed there. I want to maintain, like, a flawless victory here. But, you know, like I said, it's not necessarily the officer barking at you to fire. It's not necessarily self-preservation, even. It's this sense of accountability to your fellow squad mates. And you know, maybe that resonates with you and the viewer. Maybe you easily acknowledge that. If not, I can only stress that I firmly believe that is true. That these people feel accountable to each other. The squad leaders definitely feel beholden to their squads. And it's not limited either to, like, Manny and Snugs, or, let's see, Stacy and Manzer, or Otto and J-Bone, although Otto is dead, of course. No, it's everyone. And especially on the squad level. And so you've got these combatants like Outlast that would always feel like he let his compatriots down in one way or another. He would easily be the first guy to go for extraction, even when not being ordered to move to extraction. And he wasn't fine with that. Though he did it, he'd be aboard the Skyranger thinking, what did I just do? My brothers and sisters in arms are now looking at me like I am the proverbial weakest link. And that just weighed too heavily on him. And for somebody like Gary Hillsdale, that is to say Bard, he just saw too much, you know? He probably had that guilty feeling that a soldier has where they see somebody else in their squad die, and they think for a second, thank God that wasn't me. And then they have a hard time reconciling that thought with, they just have a hard time, you know, they're just not satisfied thinking that. And perhaps not until a psychologist or a commanding officer tells them that that's entirely natural to think that, to see somebody else die in a very violent fashion and think, well, damn, I'm glad that wasn't me. For somebody to reinforce to them that that's just a human feeling, that that's natural. It isn't until that point, and maybe not even in that moment, that a weight is lifted off their shoulders. And I know I'm dwelling a lot on the psychological impact of war here, but I less want to narrate this mission, because come on, we all know Alpha's probably going to be successful here. So far, there are still no injuries. And I do want to talk about the season in question. And for this season, Godspeed, psychology plays a big part of it. And even in terms of the court-martial, and I know we've undermined that by bringing Javier Valdez back, and I'm glad we did, but I wanted to demonstrate for the viewer that cold, harsh reality, that even the bravest of combatants will sometimes be charged with cowardice because of a decision made in a moment, a fleeting moment. It just stains their reputation. And that's just another unfortunate side effect of military endeavors. Or rather, military structure, I should say. Unfortunate that was a miss, too. But anyways, I will get back to narrating this action that we're seeing unfold. And certainly we want to get to skulljacking that codex. Suffice to say, I really wanted to delve into that whole notion that even the soldier that comes back without any physical scars can be nonetheless handicapped by their experiences in combat. And yeah, I obviously, as I stated, I wanted to make that a theme of Season 3. And you know, I feel like that's a notion that's far too seldom explored in video games. But there are exceptions. I can't think of any right now. Actually, you know, one that comes to mind is Valiant Hearts, which was kind of a peculiar game. It was cartoony and a World War I game, but it touched on that. Anyhow, as you can see, the frost is worn off, and Snugs is not satisfied with that. She does have another frost bomb, and it may seem like overkill, but she wants to deploy that ice pack on this codex, knowing that it won't make Proxy's job of skulljacking that thing all the more easy.
Take this!
So here we go, ice pack out, frost in the hole. And ice pack, that's just a soldier slang for the frost bomb. A subject that I discussed a long time ago with Mortal in the comments, but I keep neglecting to put it into practice. I do with the attention whore, you know, for the mimic beacon, but I kind of fail to with the frost bomb being called the ice pack. Anyhow, the codex is frozen. Now it all rests on Proxy. And, you know, I guess I get this crazy idea to discuss the impact of the fighting on the soldiers or to explore it from, like, you know, when I did the Battlefield 1 series, I was reading Ernst Younger, and he talks about that a lot.
Moving to
So
action.
here we go. And it's good. Let's see if we can get any extra benefits out of this Skulljack attempt. Not so much, but nonetheless, the Codex is dead. Skulljack is successful, and Dr. Tygan should be pleased. Oh boy.
Commander, I believe we are seeing something entirely new. An alien species that has so far managed to elude capture or observation by resistance forces. I strongly advise a cautious approach.
So yeah, that is a new X-ray, one we have not encountered before. It definitely spices up the finale. Lead's gonna take a shot. It's a miss, but he does destroy the thing's cover. Let's see, Black Widow's gonna go for cover, and he'll pour some plasma on the beast. And it's shadowed by a ghostly form of an elder. That's interesting. What the hell?
What the? It jumped to a new position as soon as it took damage.
Okay, yeah, that's not cool. Come on, Manny, no whammies. Big money. Yeah. That'll work. That's as good as it gets. Seems almost anticlimactic, but the Elder and its little puppet are gone. Well, hell yeah. Now we have to move on that intel because the clock is ticking. Old School wants his squad to rally on him near this parked patrol car.
Good to go.
The only exception is he wants Proxy to go back into concealment. Proxy will actually make the move on the intel. But yeah, everybody else is pretty much gonna move up to Javier Valdez's position. And you know, for some reason, I mentioned Corky earlier, and I recall a time when he said to Black Widow, the sooner you realize you're dead, the more useful you'll be to me. And
Seems doable.
that's way wrong. Because I'm talking about a soldier's, you know, psychology. That comes to mind. Because that's the wrong thing to say. That whole idea, that whole Stonewall Jackson theory of warfare, that soldiers need to accept that they're already dead. It's almost as dumb as going into concealment in the middle of one of these things.
Roger.
Because if you hadn't just noticed, Proxy went into concealment and now he is surrounded by detection squares. And I'm thinking the only way to get around that is to hack that device, and that might make those detection squares dissipate. But a lot of modern day drill instructors, no, they don't give their soldiers permission to die. So there is no accept that you're dead. That's kind of a Victorian way. And perhaps I shouldn't say that it's outright wrong. After all, Stonewall Jackson was a professor at VMI. But it's just a bit of a outdated mode of instruction. So here we go with this hack. 100%, let's do that. I mean, just because Lead's not a hacker, he's gonna go with the 100%. And in doing so, he secures a small supply cache. Nice. Now, did it get rid of the detection squares that surrounded Proxy? I'm inclined to think that it did, but we won't know until we shift over to Proxy. And in fact, the coast is clear. He's gonna move up on the intel now. But a far more readily accepted style of instruction is kind of like I said earlier. I don't give you permission to die. That, in fact, your trainers in any branch of the military or in law enforcement, they're training you to live. not to accept that you're already dead so that you can do some audacious maneuver. Again, that goes back to Napoleonic warfare and that whole style of thinking. And I think it fell out of favor post-World War I. Not to say that it wasn't in practice to some extent in World War II, but, and this is not to say that there aren't some drill instructors that say stuff like that today, but yeah, the much more widely accepted mode of thinking is that you gotta survive. You're far too useful to your command. So here comes the Advent reinforcements. One mech. One, is that an officer or a trooper? It looks like a trooper. And a stun lancer. But we are ready for them. Alpha squad opens up. Snugs fires first. And the trooper is dead. Lead takes a shot, scores good damage on the stun lancer. And Black Widow finishes that creep off.
Hostile target.
Okay,
down.
good deal. All that remains is the mech. And he's just pointing. Again, I'm assigning a gender to a robot. Okay, Manny is gonna move up by this tree, see if he can get a shot off at that mech. And no, that's weird. Okay, let's have somebody else fire. Actually, let us go ahead and have Proxy make entry into this house. Move up to this next door.
I'm on the move.
That room is clear. He'll open up this door.
Objective sighted.
Okay, he is satisfied that this room is clear and does contain the intel device. So he'll approach. Can't do anything this round. Oh damn. So there is the sectopod that we could hear stomping around earlier. Alright, let's see, we want to put some fire on that mech still. Black Widow's gonna take a shot. Excellent damage indeed. Real nice. He's definitely got the blue screen rounds, don't he? Doesn't he? As to Manny, yeah, he didn't have a line of sight, so he's gonna use his grapple. Move up to this roof. Draw a sidearm and see what he can do. And that's what he can do. Nice. Okay, everyone else is gonna move up on this house.
On your order.
We are a little bit concerned about that sectopod, but it has not detected Proxy.
Sure thing.
Sure as hell, it knows that we are in the AO, but its failure to detect Proxy is paramount when it comes to him securing that intel. After all, it appears we only have one more turn to secure it, as I'm sure Central Officer will remind us, as he just did. Okay, so Proxy's gonna do this. This will probably open him up to attack from the sectopod and its accompanying soldiers. Nice. Good deal. Delays construction of an Advent facility by 2 weeks. We'll take it.
I've got the loot. Position compromised.
And, you know, even at this point,
Charges are inaccurate.
we have not taken any injury. I think I probably jinxed us. Or actually, it's just the amount of enemies, including the sectopod, that is probably jinxing us at this juncture. the fact remains we have no injuries. There may be a sectopod on the grid, but Black Widow has a couple of EMP bombs, which should make quick work of this thing. And in fact, if he's in range, and he's not, damn. I was gonna say, if he's in range, he could just use his salvo ability and fire both of them, but he's got to maneuver and then fire. So yeah, that's going to complicate things just a bit. Let's see, if we've got this sectopod's position pegged, this should do the trick.
Fire in the hole!
And it does. For a solid 10 damage. Okay. Let's see. Manny's gonna come down by this window where Snugs is.
I can handle that.
And he's only got sidearm attacks available, one of which could be lightning hands. He'll do that. It's not going to be a lot of damage, and probably even less damage due to that thing's armor. And in fact, yeah, only 1 damage because the sectopod, it just soaks up all kinds of impact. As to Snugs, she'll go ahead and take a shot. And I only see a bust of Manny there. That's weird. Just a bald bust with no hat, just shoulders and a head. So that's a visual glitch for ya.
Heading out.
Let's have lead move up. If he's got a line of sight, he'll go ahead and take a shot. And he does. And again, not a lot of damage.
Target, minimal damage.
Due to that armor. Well, Manny's got another pistol shot. Let's see if he can nick that thing again. And he does.
Hit the armor.
I mean, we're just slowly eating away at that sectopod, but we are eating away at it nonetheless.
On the move.
Javier Valdez does have the attention whore, so he's going to deploy that because it is clear that the sectopod will survive this round. So we've got the mimic beacon out.
Yeah, boy!
And hopefully that'll elicit some attention so that in the next round, Black Widow can fire that second EMP bomb.
Advent forces on the ground.
Oh, damn. And straight from the dining room comes 1 officer, 1 mech, and something else, maybe a trooper. Okay, excuse me, that shield bearer does damage on the mimic beacon, and this trooper is also attempting to, and does, do damage. But the mimic beacon is hanging on by 1 health. And the mimic beacon's gone. I don't know why the sectopod didn't move. Perhaps it was stunned because of that EMP bomb and I just failed to notice. I don't know. Either way, lead's gonna move up. Oh. Yeah, he's going for the shield bearer. Fair amount of damage. Shield bearer is still in the fight.
My ammo's running low.
As the Black Widow. Well, we talked about this. He's going to be using the EMP bomb. Yeah, friendly fire. I don't think the EMP bomb's going to hurt Lead. In theory, it should screw up Lead's gremlin, but I don't think it will. No, it doesn't. But it sure screwed up that sectopod. And correct me if I'm wrong, in the comments, I guess.
Moving to position.
I think the shield bearer went down with the sectopod. Not because of the EMP, but because of the sectopod exploding. And he's going for the mech. Good damage. We'll take it.
Turn off the armor.
Yeah, it does have armor, that's for certain. Let's have Snug see if she can finish it off. Well,
What'd you expect?
yeah, she did.
Negative ammo. I'm spent.
It took me a second to appraise the situation, but she took the mech down. So that leaves 3 on the grid, I believe. One of which is this trooper. Make that 2 on the grid.
That's right.
So I think we've got a shield bearer and a trooper remaining. And honestly, folks, that might be the last pod. I don't know if I should have moved Valdez in there. What are you doing, Valdez? Either way. Actually...
On Overwatch.
Yeah, just Overwatch. The officer calls out Black Widow. He's taking a shot.
Body armor.
And there goes our flawless victory. But if that's our biggest qualm, we're doing fine. Shield bearer buffs himself and the officer. It conjures images of him just getting out a rag and just like buffing out little marks. Little scuffs on the officer's armor before flashing him, you know, an A-OK gesture. But you and I know that it's much more than that. Lead just went about healing Black Widow.
Come get some.
And as the Black Widow, he's going to line up a shot on, well, actually, scratch that. Let's have Snugs give this a go. She's out of conventional ammo, so she's going to try out that plasma blaster. But actually, maybe she can get a better position.
On my way.
And so, from behind this couch, she'll attempt to use the plasma blaster on the shield bearer. Yeah, that's pretty damn cool. That works. Okay, so that leaves 1 on the grid, the Advent officer.
On the move.
And Black Widow's gonna approach. The officer called him out, he'll call out the officer. Follow that up with some plasma. And he wounds the officer, but that lone Advent officer is still in the fight. And I dare say, his armor is once again scuffed up. No shield bearer to buff it out this time. As to Manny, kind of misjudged what kind of angle that door would grant him, so that's all he's doing this round. Proxy is going to attempt to finish this officer off.
Jocking in!
Hell yeah, too gory to show on screen, I guess, right? As I say that, we get a close-up, though slightly obscured. Well, it's a failed hack. That means that Proxy's going to take a little bit of damage, but...
Status confirmed. All hostiles are down and the area is secure.
But it's all good.
Mission accomplished.
Because we had foregone our flawless victory anyhow. And so, Alpha is back en route to the Avenger. And yeah, it just kind of feels right, you know? Feels right having Javier Valdez back in charge of the Golden Boys and Gal of XCOM. And he's still got it. I dare say he's still got it. And, you know, like he used to do with every operation, he kicked this thing off with a prayer. And yeah, even those skeptical about religion seemed to wholeheartedly join him in prayer. For once, just because they were oh so thankful to have him back on their roster. So good stuff there. And you know, Two Bears, he went back to Montana, albeit briefly. He had some unfinished business there, and he was going to meet with with Mr. Vane's family, because Mr. Vane was from the same resistance group, and he was going to give his condolences to them. So that explains his absence. Okay. So Snugs picks up aim as a special skill, and she's also going to take salvo, because she is more grenadier than she is a machine gunner. She's the explosive type. So yeah, salvo it is. And as to aim, that's basically if she hunkers down, it confers I think, plus 20 to aim. And Manny also gets a promotion. He's going to go with steady hands. So yeah, good deal there. And there's one more promotion to dole out, and that is Proxy, who is only slightly wounded. Can't help it. Gotta go with Blade Storm. I am just too attached to that particular skill. It's just cool.
Commander,
Very effective thing there.
I firmly believe the specimen we have recovered is crucial to the aliens' efforts. We currently do not have the means of properly studying.
So that creature we fought is the Avatar.
Objective added.
Now we've got its corpse, and it looks like we can do an autopsy, but for some reason we can't yet. We lack the facility to do that. Strange, I figured that would just be the shadow chamber. I suppose we'll delve into the mystery behind that in Season 4. In the meantime, let's have a look at Dr. Tygan's lab, see what this research is all about. Oh, okay, it's a facility lead, which we cannot afford.
The Elders have always been elusive. Aside from the occasional monument, I don't imagine most of the people in the city centers have ever actually seen one in person. Knowing now that the Elders are apparently suffering at the hands of some terminal affliction explains their absence from the public eye. More importantly, what sort of ailment could possibly be beyond their vast curative abilities?
I don't know. Herpes? Some kind of STD? Something. Anyhow, we kicked off this season with Charlie's squad infiltrating the Advent Forge. And, hold up, what's going on here?
This creature your troops encountered may be a critical piece of the Avatar project, Commander. Your efforts are to be commended.
Cool. We'll take it. And looking back on those first two episodes, I kind of regret breaking those up into a part 1, part 2. I should have just stuck with one long episode just to get it over with. What's the point? If I'm going to upload 2 episodes that run virtually back to back with no time in between, might as well just upload the whole thing at once. And so our proving grounds produce the stasis vest. Doesn't really pique my interest. So maybe we'll lay off the experimental armors. After all, we've only got so many Illyrium cores, and yeah, we've only got 2 Illyrium cores left, and it seems like all of these endeavors cost an Illyrium core. Anyhow, we're going to look into experimental heavy weapons for our next research task.
I'll send word as soon as we're finished, Commander.
I shouldn't say research, really, this is development. I guess, honestly, it's R&D. But yeah, looking back over this season, we have suffered some losses. But before we get into that, it looks like Autumn Durga has concluded her Inspire training. Next up for her will be Insanity. And she's going to fall in with Echo Squad. And Echo Squad will be commanded by codenamed Mortal. And Van Dorn is telling him that he doesn't really want the squad to go into the field for the first time without Van Dorn personally taking to the field with them. Now, Mortal doesn't think that's necessary. It's really a bad foot to start off on, the 2 of them arguing. And that argument even continues into whether or not Autumn Durga will fall in with Echo Squad right away. Van Dorn wants her to have more training. Mortal says, well, she fought alongside us in the jungles of South America, so she's absolutely ready.
Course for Sector 2, Australia.
So yeah, the two of them are butting heads. Nonetheless, Van Dorn will probably get his way, and the first time Echo Squad takes to the field, Van Dorn will be substituted in for Autumn Durga.
Communication coming in for you now, Commander.
You have made considerable progress against the aliens over the past month, Commander. I hope that your ongoing efforts will only lead to further success.
And also falling in with Echo Squad, let's see. Bridget Michaels will be going along with them. Of course, Catherine Susbury, Finnegan Trollister, and trying to think who am I missing. Oh yeah, they needed a squad medic, so Charlie Squad's former medic, Titanium, will also be falling in with Echo Squad. Looks like Durga has already completed her insanity training. That only bolsters Mortal's argument that she should be taken to the field with them. And frankly, the guy feels like he should be commanding his squad in the field, not Van Dorn. After all, they had great success as well, honestly. Probably mixed results in South America against Advent long before XCOM picked them up. But Van Dorn doesn't concern himself with those track records. His priority is ensuring that Echo Squad wears their uniforms and knows how to follow his orders. Anyhow, I kind of want to discuss the season that we've just experienced and the losses. I know I started to talk about that, but I kind of got interrupted. The first loss that we witnessed was, well, I guess in a sense, Javier Valdez, but of course he is back among us. And as you see, we're landing here in Australia. And then in terms of our KIAs, we lost Otto Williams. And certainly that had an effect on J-Bone. It was a troubling loss, but he died in combat. One cannot say the same for Miles Upshore, who threw himself from the Avenger, just really unable to cope with the realities of war. And then we suffered 3 losses at once. First was, of course, Warren Silas, immediately followed by John Clayton, and finally Dan Richards. And yeah, it's tough taking those losses, but I do feel like we are moving along the path to victory. You'd have a hard time convincing me that Advent is going to win this, and I feel like in Season 4, we're going to be choosing a lot of the battles. We're going to be hitting their black sites. We're going to be hitting more sensitive locations than just your typical black sites. It's going to be less reactionary. XCOM will definitely be on the offensive, and in the course of that, hopefully, we inspire the various resistance movements to rise up and ultimately overthrow their oppressors. Anyways, this is Automatic for Automatic Games. I do appreciate you watching this episode and this season as a whole. If you like this, and if you are subscribed, I will talk to you soon, friends. I hope to see you in Season 4.